Hey everyone, and welcome back. Ready for another deep dive?
I'm ready.
Okay, fantastic. Today we're going to be tackling something that
Mm.
I think is super relevant to pretty much anyone learning English, and that's talking about your hobbies.
Mm.
So I'm super excited about this one.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah,
I think this is something that we've all had those moments where we struggle
absolutely.
to express ourselves talking about the things we love, and I think that this is really going to help some people out there.
Yeah, and you shared some really cool materials with me, kind of structured like a language lesson,
Hmm.
but they dive way deeper into not just the phrases themselves, but how this whole idea of talking about hobbies is such a key to unlocking fluency and confidence in
Well,
English.
and what's great about this is that it uses something that every human can relate to.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone has things they're passionate about, things they enjoy doing.
Yeah,
And so it's something that can immediately be a point of connection in
yeah,
conversation
yeah,
with someone else.
yeah. It's like a universal language,
Exactly.
the language of passion.
Yes.
Okay, so the material really stresses this idea that talking about hobbies isn't just, like
Right.
small talk to fill awkward silences.
Yeah.
It's actually a key part of becoming more confident and more fluent
Hmm?
in English overall. How
No.
how does that work?
When you're talking about something that you are passionate about,
Yeah.
you naturally use more descriptive language.
Huh.
You know,
Yeah.
you're no longer just saying I like movies. You're
Right.
saying, oh, I'm really into film noir,
Mm.
especially like the classics from the 40s.
Yeah.
You're suddenly using all of these, you know, richer verbs, adjectives, emotional
Yeah.
language
Yeah.
to really kind of paint that picture. And
Yeah.
and it just becomes this natural fluency workout
Hmm.
disguised as a fun conversation.
I love that
Yeah.
fluency workout disguised as a fun conversation.
Yeah.
So it's less about memorizing scripts and more about finding your own voice in English? Yeah.
Exactly.
I like that.
And the material gives us some good phrases to
Uh-huh.
get started, like the very versatile ones.
Yeah.
I love verbing. I'm really into, I
Hmm.
enjoy,
Yeah.
I'm passionate about.
Yeah.
But what I think is so interesting is that each of those
Yeah.
has a slightly different feeling.
Uh-huh.
Like, I enjoy
Yeah.
is very casual,
Mm-hmm.
whereas I'm passionate about
Yeah.
is like, whoa, this is something I really care about.
It's true. And it's funny because just the other day I was talking to someone and I was like, oh, I'm really passionate about, and they were kind of like taken aback.
Yeah.
Like, whoa, okay. I
Yeah.
didn't mean to come on that strong, but
Yeah, but it shows that you're choosing that
Yeah.
specific phrase
yeah,
because it really matters to you.
exactly. Yeah.
And I think as you're learning
yeah.
English,
Yeah.
that's something that can really help you connect with someone else.
Yeah.
It's like choosing that right phrase.
It sets the tone for the conversation.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's awesome. Okay, so the material also talks about learning specific vocabulary
Mhm.
related to your own hobbies. So if you're like
Right.
a big foodie, learn all those foodie terms.
Yes.
If you are
If you're a musician, learn all the musical terms.
Yeah, why is that so important?
Because it allows you to talk about the nuances
Yeah.
of what makes your passion so unique.
Yeah.
If you're a
yeah.
musician,
Yeah.
you know the difference between, crescendo
Yeah.
and syncopation, and you can talk about those things.
Yeah.
It just allows you to create a much richer picture for the listener.
Yeah.
And it makes...
It's more than just sharing a hobby. You're sharing a part of yourself.
Exactly
It's
right.
like adding those vibrant details to a painting.
Yes.
Suddenly it becomes more than just shapes and colors.
Yeah.
It tells a story.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's where things get
Yeah.
really interesting. Because once you've introduced your hobby,
Yeah.
the next step is to explain why you love it.
Ooh, here's where it gets really interesting.
Yes.
Because I think anyone can list their hobbies,
Yeah.
but what really sparks that connection is understanding the why behind them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the material gives you some fantastic
Yeah,
phrases
yeah.
to help you do just that.
Okay.
Phrases like, I love it because it makes
Yeah.
me feel, it
Mm.
allows me to... I find it really, all of these kinds of phrases
Yeah.
that really open the door to express that deeper meaning that hobby holds for you.
Okay, so instead of just saying, I like to cook, I could say,
Or-
I love to cook because it allows me to be creative
Can you
and
finish?
share delicious food
Yeah.
with people I care about.
Exactly. You're no longer just stating a fact.
Yeah.
You're sharing an insight into
Yeah.
your values
Yes.
and what brings you joy.
It's true. Yeah.
And that's what makes a conversation
Yeah.
really engaging. It invites the other person to connect with you on a much deeper level.
It's like you're giving them a peek behind the curtain,
Exactly.
showing them the heart of what makes you tick.
Yes, and that vulnerability
Yeah.
is often what leads to those
Yes.
really genuine and meaningful conversations.
Okay, so let's shift gears a bit and
Yeah.
talk about turning those passions into engaging conversations.
Yeah.
What are some tips from the material that we can use to take our hobby talk to the next level?
So the material emphasizes
Yeah.
the power of open-ended questions.
Okay.
So instead of asking, what's your hobby?
Yeah.
Try asking, what do you like to do in your free time?
Ooh, I see the difference.
Yes.
Okay.
Or how did you get into that?
Yes, instead of just getting a one-word answer, you're inviting them to share a story.
Exactly.
You're showing genuine curiosity, which
Yeah.
makes them feel more comfortable opening up.
Exactly.
Okay.
And the material also gives some great examples of follow-up questions that can keep the conversation going. Like, oh, how long have you been doing that?
Yeah.
What do you find most challenging about it? These kinds of things that show that you're actively listening
Yeah.
and eager to learn more.
It's like being a good detective.
Yes.
You're asking the right questions
Yeah.
to uncover the hidden gems of someone's passion.
Exactly.
And you know what's so cool is that you don't always have to have the same hobbies to connect.
Exactly.
Sometimes the most fascinating conversations happen
Yes.
when we're learning about something completely new.
That's so true.
This makes me think of this one time I was talking to someone about
Uh-huh.
beekeeping, and I knew nothing about bees.
Yeah.
But they were so passionate about it that I just
Yeah.
got swept up in their enthusiasm, and I
Oh.
learned so much.
And that's a perfect example of how sharing hobbies
Yeah.
can open doors to new
Yeah.
perspectives
Yeah.
and experiences.
That's what makes this whole approach to language learning so cool. Yeah.
It's not just about acquiring vocabulary and grammar. It's about using those tools to connect with the world around us.
Exactly.
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've talked about how talking about hobbies can make you more fluent and confident, how it can help you connect with people on a deeper level.
Yeah.
But let's be real for a second. I think a lot of people,
Yes.
especially those learning English, might feel self-conscious about putting themselves out there, like sharing their passions.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I think that's completely understandable. You know,
Yeah.
it takes courage
Yeah.
to put yourself out there, especially in a new language.
Especially when you're not confident in your skills.
And you're afraid of making mistakes.
Yeah, and I think the material actually addresses that fear
It does.
head on. It really encourages us to embrace those imperfections.
It does, because think about it.
Yeah.
Making mistakes.
Is an essential part of learning any language.
Yeah. It's how we learn.
It's how we learn.
Yeah.
Every time you stumble over a word or a phrase,
Yeah.
your brain is actually making new connections. It's solidifying those pathways
Yeah.
to fluency.
It's like a little workout for your brain
Exactly.
every time you make a mistake.
Yeah.
So it's not about striving for perfection.
No.
It's about allowing ourselves to be vulnerable and
Yes.
learn from those stumbles.
Absolutely.
Which I think is such a powerful message for anyone, not just language learners.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
And the people who are genuinely interested in connecting with you
Yeah.
are not going to be
Yeah.
focused on your minor grammatical errors.
It's true.
They're going to be drawn to your passion and the effort that
Yeah.
you're making
I love that.
to share a part of yourself.
Yeah. It's like what we were saying earlier about that vulnerability. When you're genuine and enthusiastic, it shines through, regardless of perfect grammar.
Yes. And that brings us to
Yeah.
another really fascinating aspect that's highlighted
Yeah.
in the material.
Oh. Okay. The power of storytelling.
Ooh, storytelling. Now, that's something I can get behind.
Yeah.
A good story
Uh-huh.
has a way of captivating us,
Yes.
drawing us in, regardless of the language it's told in.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the material talks about weaving personal anecdotes
Yeah.
into your conversations about your hobbies. So instead of just saying, I enjoy photography,
Yeah.
you could share a story about a particularly memorable photo that you took.
Yeah.
Or a funny mishap
Yeah.
that happened during a photo shoot.
Oh, I love that.
You know?
Yeah.
It's like adding those spices that transform
That's such a good analogy. I love that.
a simple dish into something truly flavorful.
It's like taking it to the next level with those stories.
Because what's brilliant about storytelling,
is that it allows you to connect with the listener
yeah,
on an emotional level.
Mm-hmm.
You're not just conveying information.
Uh-huh.
You are sharing an experience.
Yeah.
And those shared experiences,
Yeah.
even if they're about completely different hobbies,
Mm.
are often what spark those unexpected connections.
So give me an example. Like, how does that work?
Sure. So let's say you're talking to someone
Yeah.
who's really into rock climbing.
Yeah.
And you are a total bookworm.
Okay.
On the surface, you might think,
Yeah.
we have nothing in common.
Totally different worlds.
Totally different worlds.
Yeah.
But what if you share a story about getting so
Yeah.
lost in a book
Mm-hmm.
that you forgot the world around you?
And the rock climber shares a story about reaching the summit
Yeah.
after a really challenging climb.
And suddenly you found that common ground.
Oh, wow.
The feeling of being
Yes.
completely absorbed in an activity.
Yes.
The exhilaration of achieving a goal.
That's so cool. I love that.
Right. So it's those shared
Yeah.
experiences that can really bring people together.
It's amazing how storytelling can bridge those seemingly vast differences
It is.
between our hobbies.
It is.
It's like discovering a secret passageway
Yeah.
that leads to this like
Yes.
shared world of experience.
Exactly.
I love that.
And that is one of the most
Yeah.
beautiful things about language is
Yeah.
it gives us the tools to build those bridges, to
Mhm.
connect with others
Yeah.
in ways we might never have imagined.
You know, and the material even points out that
Yeah.
sharing those stories, those
Ah.
personal moments of like triumph
Mhm.
or even failure can actually boost our confidence
Yes.
in speaking English.
That's such a great point.
Yeah.
Because when you're sharing a story that's meaningful to you,
Yeah.
you're no longer just reciting words.
Mm.
You're expressing a part of yourself.
Uh-huh.
And that act of self-expression
Yes.
can be incredibly empowering.
It's like you're saying, this is who I am.
Yeah.
This is what I love.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not afraid to share it with you.
Exactly.
And that confidence like radiates outward,
It does.
making you a more engaging and compelling communicator.
It really does.
So as we're kind of exploring these
Yeah.
different strategies for talking about hobbies in English,
Uh-huh.
is there anything in the material that like surprised you?
You know what really struck me
Yeah.
was the emphasis
Mm.
on finding joy
Mm.
in the process.
Oh, yeah.
It's so easy to get caught up in the mechanics
Yeah.
of grammar and vocabulary,
Mm-hmm.
but this material reminds us that language
Yeah.
is ultimately about
Mm-hmm.
connection and expression.
Yeah. It's like the difference between
Yes.
practicing scales on a piano
Yeah.
and actually playing a piece of music that moves you.
That is such a perfect analogy.
It's like you're not just doing the technical stuff.
You're actually creating something beautiful.
Exactly.
So when you approach language learning with that sense of
Mhm.
playfulness
Yes.
and curiosity,
Yes.
it becomes less about achieving perfection
Right.
and more about discovering these new ways to connect with the world.
And that shift in perspective
Yeah.
can make all the difference.
It takes the pressure off.
It does.
Yeah, and it lets you just enjoy the journey
Yes.
of becoming more fluent and confident.
Absolutely.
It's about embracing the stumbles,
Mm-hmm.
celebrating those small victories,
Yes.
and remembering that language learning is this lifelong adventure.
Yes, it is.
It's a journey, not a destination.
It is not a destination.
Yeah.
It's a lifelong journey.
We're not just talking about hobbies here.
No.
We're talking about
about
finding your voice,
finding your voice.
embracing your individuality,
Yes.
and connecting with others in a really authentic way.
Absolutely.
I love that.
And that's what makes this material so valuable.
Yeah. It goes beyond that surface level of
Mhm.
language instruction and
Mhm.
really taps into that
Mm.
human desire to connect and share our passions with the world.
That's beautiful. I love that.
Yeah.
Well, we've covered so much ground already in this deep dive, and we've only just begun to scratch the surface of this fascinating topic.
There's so much more
So much more.
to talk about.
Yeah, so be sure to join us for
Yep.
part 2 of this deep dive,
Please do.
where we'll continue exploring the power of talking about hobbies
Uh-huh.
in English.
I'm excited for it.
Me too.
All right.
All right, see you in part 2.
See you then.
Okay, so we're back and ready to dive even deeper
Let's do it.
into this idea of talking about hobbies in English. You know, last time
Yeah.
we talked about how it can make you more fluent and confident,
Mm.
how it can help you connect with people
Huh.
on a deeper level. But you know, something that just keeps coming back to me is this idea of storytelling.
Mm.
Because I think storytelling, yeah,
Plays such a crucial role
it really does.
in making those conversations about hobbies come alive.
Mhm.
What do you think?
I think it's because a good story has this way of captivating us,
Yeah.
drawing us in regardless of what
What-
language it's told in.
Yeah, it's like it transcends language.
It really does.
It's a universal form of communication.
Exactly.
And I think the material we're looking at really highlights this idea of weaving personal anecdotes into your
Yes.
conversations.
Yeah.
So instead of just saying,
Uh-huh.
I enjoy photography,
Right.
you might share a story about this like amazing photo you took.
Yeah.
Or like a funny mishap that happened during a photo shoot.
I love that.
Yeah, it's like it takes it to the next level.
Yeah, it's like, we were talking about spices before. It's
Yeah.
like adding that extra flavor.
Those little details
Yeah,
make it so memorable.
Exactly. And what's so brilliant about that?
Is that it allows you to connect with the listener
Yeah.
on an emotional level.
Yeah, you're not just conveying information.
Right.
You're sharing an experience.
Exactly. And I think those shared experiences, even if they're about
Yeah.
completely different hobbies,
Yeah.
are often what spark those
Yes.
really unexpected connections.
It's like finding that common ground
Yeah.
where you least expect it.
And I think it goes back to that vulnerability we
Yeah.
were talking about earlier,
Yeah.
because
Mm-hmm.
when you share those personal stories, those moments of
Yeah.
triumph or even failure,
Yeah.
you're putting yourself out there.
You're letting people see.
You are the real you.
Yeah. And that takes courage.
Absolutely.
But it can be so rewarding
it can.
because it allows you to connect with people on a much deeper level.
It's like building a bridge
Yeah.
between your world
Mm-hmm.
and theirs.
I love that, building a bridge.
Yeah.
So I guess the question then becomes,
Mm.
how do we become better storytellers in English?
That is the question, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, I think the first step is to simply allow yourself to be vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
Don't be afraid to share
Yeah.
those personal details.
Those little moments that
Yeah.
make the story come alive.
Exactly.
And remember that it's not about perfection.
Right.
It's about authenticity.
Authenticity. Yeah.
It's about connecting with your listener
Mm-hmm.
on a human level.
Absolutely.
And I think the more you practice,
Yeah.
the more comfortable you'll become.
It's like anything.
Yeah.
The more you do it,
Yeah.
the easier it gets.
It becomes more natural.
Exactly. And one
Yeah.
thing that I find really helpful is to think about
Yeah.
the stories that you love to tell
Okay.
in your native language,
Mm-hmm.
and then try to find ways to tell those stories
Ooh, in English.
in English.
So you already have the structure.
Yes.
You already have the emotion.
You already have the passion.
Yeah.
You just need to find the words
The English word.
The English word.
Gestures.
to express it.
Exactly. And don't be afraid
Yeah.
to experiment,
Yeah.
to play around with different ways of saying things.
Mhm.
It's
Yeah.
all part of the fun.
It's all part of the learning process.
It is.
Yeah. And you know what I love about storytelling
What's that?
is that it's a two-way street.
Uh-huh.
It's not just about you telling your stories.
Mm-hmm.
It's about inviting the other person
Yes.
to share their stories as well.
Exactly. And that's where those open-ended questions that we talked about last time
Yeah.
come in handy.
Okay, so we've talked about how storytelling can really enhance our
Mm.
conversations about hobbies.
Yes.
But, as we wrap up this part of our
Yeah.
deep dive,
Mhm.
I'm curious,
Yeah.
is there anything else
Mm.
in the material that really stood out to you?
You know what really resonated with me?
Was this idea of finding joy
Mm-hmm.
in the process
Oh, yeah.
of language learning.
They were talking about that a little bit.
Yeah, we
There.
were, because it's so easy to get
Mm.
caught up in
Yeah.
the grammar rules
Yeah.
and the vocabulary lists
Yeah.
and all of that,
Yeah.
that we forget
Yeah.
that language is ultimately
Mhm.
about connection and expression.
Yeah. We can get so focused on the
Yeah.
technical stuff
Yeah.
that we forget to actually enjoy
Yeah,
the music.
the music, exactly.
So how do we bring that joy back into our language learning?
I think it starts with
Yeah.
remembering why we're learning in the first place.
Okay.
What is it that drew you
Mm-hmm.
to English?
Yeah.
What are you hoping to achieve?
Yeah. What are your goals?
What are your goals, exactly?
And how can you make the process of getting there
Mm.
more enjoyable?
Exactly, because if you're not enjoying it,
Yeah.
you're less likely to stick with it,
It's true.
you know?
And I think that's true for anything in life.
I think so too.
Yeah. If you're not having fun,
Mm-hmm.
you're not gonna,
You're going to give up.
you're gonna give up.
You're going to lose motivation.
Exactly.
So find ways to make it fun,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Find those things that spark your interest,
Yes.
that make you excited to learn.
And don't be afraid to be creative.
Yeah. Get creative.
Yeah.
Step outside of your comfort zone.
Mhm.
Try new things.
Yes. And remember,
Yeah.
it's okay to make mistakes.
Yes. Embrace those mistakes.
Embrace them.
For
They're part of the process.
they are.
Yeah.
They're valuable.
They're how we learn.
They are.
So as we move into the final part of our deep dive,
Yeah.
I want you to keep those things in mind.
Okay.
Find the joy.
Find the joy.
Embrace those mistakes.
Yes.
And most importantly,
Mhm.
don't be afraid to share your passions
Share your passions with the world.
with the world.
Yeah. I love that. Okay, so we're back for the final part of our deep dive into talking about hobbies in English.
I can't believe how much we've covered.
I know, right? It's amazing how much there is to say.
It's true. It's more than just like, here are some phrases.
Exactly. It's about so much more.
It is.
So as we wrap things up,
Yeah.
what are some key takeaways that you think our listeners should really walk away with?
Well, I think the biggest takeaway is this.
Okay.
Talking about your hobbies is a powerful tool,
Mm-hmm.
not only for improving your English,
Yeah.
but also for enriching your life.
I love that.
It's about connecting with others, sharing your passions,
Yeah.
embracing the joy of communication.
It all comes back to connection, doesn't it?
It really does, yeah.
And remember all those practical tips that we talked about?
Uh-huh.
Choosing phrases that reflect your level of enthusiasm.
Right.
Learning vocabulary specific to your hobbies.
Yes, learning that niche vocabulary.
Yes.
It can make such a difference.
Yeah, and asking those open-ended questions.
Yeah. Right. Those are so important.
To keep the conversation flowing.
Yeah, instead of just,
Yeah.
dead-end questions.
Exactly.
Get those conversations going.
And of course,
Mhm.
the magic of storytelling.
Oh, yes. The stories.
I feel like we could do a whole deep dive
I know.
based on storytelling.
It's so powerful
It really is.
because it's those stories
Yeah.
that really connect us.
They make us human.
They do. They make us human.
Wow, this whole deep dive has been incredible.
I know. I've loved it.
It's been about so much more than just like language learning.
Right.
It's been about self-discovery, vulnerability, the power of human connection.
Beautifully said.
Oh, thank you.
I think that's the perfect segue
Okay.
into our final thought for today.
Ooh, I love a good thought-provoking question.
All right. So as you continue your
Yeah.
language learning adventure,
Mm-hmm.
I want you to think about this.
Okay.
Think about a time when you felt truly seen
Oh,
and understood
yeah.
in a conversation.
Mhm.
What elements
Okay.
were present in that conversation?
Mhm.
Was it the words that were spoken,
Yeah.
the stories that were shared,
Mhm.
or perhaps something even deeper,
Ooh,
a sense of
nice.
shared humanity?
Wow, that is powerful.
Yeah. And think about
Yeah.
how you as a language learner
Yeah.
can use what we've talked about today
Mhm.
to create more of those moments
Yes.
of genuine connection
I love that.
in your English conversations.
It's been an absolute pleasure
The pleasure was all mine.
diving into this with you.
Likewise.
And to our listener, thank you so much for joining us
Thank you.
on this journey
Yes.
of exploration and discovery.
Exploration and discovery.
We hope you leave feeling inspired
Yes.
and empowered
Absolutely.
to share your passions
Yeah, don't be shy.
with the world.
Share those passions.
Happy conversing, everyone.
Happy conversing.